Hello and welcome to another episode of Future Learners. I am your host, Brett Campbell, CEO and Chairman of Euka Future Learning, and I'm joined by my lovely host, S, as always. Hostess, I was going to say co-host, but then I forgot the co, and then I went with host, and then S, and what a mouthful. My beautiful co-host, and also the amazing hostess, Ellen Brown, our founder and head of education. How you doing, Ellen?
Well, thank you, Brett. Nice to be a hostess.
Yeah, the hostess with the mostess. I was going to continue on with that as well.
Yeah.
All right. So firstly, thank you to all of you for tuning in. We appreciate you giving us your time to listen to these episodes, but also we appreciate you even more when you drop us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, and of course, when you share these episodes. So thank you for continuing to do so. We're excited to continue to bring these episodes to you. And today we have another doozy of a topic as well. Ellen, let's introduce the topic. What are we going to be diving into today?
Well, we've had International Women's Day this week, and we thought it might be really helpful to have a look at how can we empower our young women, our girls as they're growing up, and help them to be brave, courageous, and happy girls. So we're going to focus on that this week.
There we go. So a big mountain to climb there, lots of responsibility. And I'm going to hand to you first and foremost. Where do we start, Ellen? How do we do that? Talk to me.
Well, look, I wish I could say I'm an expert. I've got 4 boys and a girl. And so I definitely don't feel like an expert, even though she's, hitting 16 now and we're still good friends. So maybe that does make me a bit of an expert because I've managed to achieve that part of things. But where do we start? We start by looking at how do we help build confidence and self-esteem in our girls. Got any thoughts on that, Brett?
I do. Actually, I do have a lot of thoughts. I'm never short of a thought or two. It's one of these topics, actually, it's quite interesting because I always, I like to go to, what would I say, quite deep avenues of thought as it pertains to topics like this, because I think that the opportunity and the reward of being able to have a very thoughtful discussion that's meaningful, that can create impact and move someone towards success, for example, like for someone to be able to listen to this and truly not be motivated, right? So you can hear people talk about, instilling confidence in young women and how we should empower them and so on and so forth. It's really about what are the touch points that we need to be discussing and unwrapping in many cases for it to land, for the message to really land, right? And I will say this first and foremost is in order for us as a society to build, empower young females to be confident and have self-esteem, it's got to start with ourselves, of course, first and foremost. So I think that the first quest that every parent should go on if they're trying to instill anything within inside their child is to instill it within inside of themselves, because when it's inside of yourself, you have such a rock solid foundational belief, right? It's you've got the time on the mat, you know exactly what it takes, or you know the experience that you've gone through, but just because your experience doesn't mean someone else is going to have the exact same experience, all right? It's like when I talk to fellow friends of mine, whether we're talking about, being a parent now, again, I've got 3 years on the mat as a parent, right? So I'm not the person you'd really want to come to and say, hey, I've got my 14-year-old's doing this. I probably don't have that direct experience with that. However, if you, again, peel the layer of the onion back a little bit, how you would deal with a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 45-year-old. I mean, I talk to 45-year-olds who act like they're 6 years old sometimes. So the fundamentals, and I'll put my hand up, sometimes I act like a little baby as well. We all do. We've all got it in us. But it's more about having a framework of how do I actually think about this? What do I, and where am I needing to instill confidence, right? Because there's confidence in the sense of, do I just have unparalleled sweeping confidence in every single thing that I do? Or do I need to have the art or learn the art or the techniques on how do I build confidence within this area, within that area, because there's going to be some things that will naturally come to you, right? And the experiences that we have along the way are going to either enhance your confidence or dramatically decrease your confidence. right? So for an example, and I'll just give a bit of a high level here, and then we can jump back to the framework itself. But a lot of children lose their confidence because of the action that they took and the reaction that they got from said action. Okay, so I am yet to see a 2-year-old who doesn't have confidence. Like, they will run through walls, right? So it's like, okay, why is this 2-year-old got unbelievable confidence? They're standing on the table. They're standing on, now again, they don't understand the consequence of falling off and banging their head and potentially really hurting themselves. But it's until a consequence is attached to a said action that will either enhance you to want to move forward further or revert back into your shell. And a lot of adults who don't have confidence in this day and age, it's been a compounding effect of, I don't want to do X anymore because the feeling I got on the other side of that, I haven't, and a lot of parents or adults don't even know why they don't have confidence in something until you revert back to really uncovering what it was that was the prime indicator. So for me, like as an example, when I was younger, I had one of my best friends teased me about something, and it was about my physical body, right? And interestingly enough, it like lasered something into my brain that I was like, I have to change that. I have to change that. So then I started going to the gym. As soon as I could go to the gym at school, like when I was 14, I was there lifting weights because I was like, I need to change this part of my body so he doesn't think that that's the, like, and I put all of my feelings on just what this one person said, right? And that sent me on this quest of just being in the gym forever, and obviously it sent me down the life that I have today. But we've got to be very, very aware of where are we, like where is this thing originating from, and what are we actually trying to solve for here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. When it comes to girls, like you've just said here, girls and self-esteem, when you've said, had this one person say that one thing to you, you can magnify that by, I can't even think of a number when it comes to social media and what young girls, quite young now, are being exposed to about what the look should be, and how your body should be and how you should be. And Brett, I had a great time at school, but to develop my self-confidence at school meant trying to be what the teacher wants you to be, not trying to be who you want to be. And I think one of the things that I have loved about homeschooling my own daughter is that I can say, what are her strengths? What are her passions? How can I build that? And I've seen a confidence in her that I didn't have growing up because, at school you say the wrong answer or you wear the wrong thing or you bring the wrong thing for lunch. And all of a sudden, your whole world changes around you, and their confidence gets really quite battered in that kind of situation. So, the big one for parents, especially if you're homeschooling, and I bet you do this already, Brett, with your little one, is to be building her confidence up and really saying to her, look, you've done such a great job. Not fake stuff. I'm not talking about fake stuff, not everything's wonderful. But when you see them doing something that they have a special talent for and being able to highlight that and give them more opportunities to do that, because you can't keep them away from the social media. You've got to arm them. You've got to give them some strength to walk into that. And you know what else just popped into my mind is when we were talking the other day about conflict resolution. For girls, if they've got those skills that we talked about the other day, that gives them the ability to be confident in their own voice. So some of those skills in being able to communicate and conflict resolution are really important when you're building confidence as a young woman.
To add a little bit of a framework to this, if we look at it simplistically for a second, to increase confidence, there's a thing called the confidence loop, right? So I've talked about it in previous episodes, but it's essentially if you want to break things down to frameworks. I love breaking things down to frameworks because it just makes things easy to understand. and also easy for me to be able to, communicate it to others, and then hopefully they remember and can retain it. So it starts with, in order to have confidence, you must start with courage. It's having the courage to step forward or to do this or to participate, right? So if you're talking about it from a young age with a child, I'm doing my absolute best, myself and Emily are doing our absolute best to instill courage into Ayla. Now, how do you do that? Like, how do you instill courage, right? Now, there's a number of different methodologies that you can approach. One of them is rough and tumble play with your child, right? Literally, that's one of the primary tasks that are laid upon males, the father figure within the house. It's like the lion playing with their cub. And it's not to build a fickle, and a person who is not afraid to graze their knees or to bang their elbow or to bang their head. And it's really hard because as a father, the last thing I want to see is my child hurt themselves or do something but sometimes you got to go, you know what? This is part of the lesson that I'm hoping that she'll be able to gain from this, right? So in order to help someone increase their courage or to have the courage is to, one, create an environment where failure is not even a thing, right? Like learning is the thing. It's hey, that's all right. It doesn't matter if we didn't do that. Like I'll sit down and we're playing a puzzle with Ayla and she's got a piece and she's like, oh, and I can see her getting frustrated. She's like, I can't do it. I said, darling, you can do whatever you put your mind to. You just got to take a deep breath, have a look, and then we keep trying. That's what we do here. We just keep trying and trying. Have a try for me again. And then next minute she puts the puzzle piece in and she's like, yay, I did it. Yeah, and she's happy. And it's the repetition of that as a parent that you, and when I'm parenting, I'm parenting like 80% in the moment and I'm 20% in the future. Okay. And it's a really important distinction because some people go, why aren't you 100% there and present? I'm like, if I was 100% present, she'd be running wild because all I want to do is have fun and I don't care about the consequences, right? But every action has a consequence. So we need to think about that. And so when I engage in playful play, right, I'm helping her go towards her limit every single time. So if we're on the trampoline and she's like, chase me, I'm like, okay, I'll chase you. And then she'll end up falling over. And then, I'll wrestle her until because now I've got it to a point where she goes, stop. So that's when we stop. When she says stop, I'll stop the rough and tumble. And then she's the one who engages again. She goes, go, right? And so we're creating boundaries around her having the courage still to engage in said thing, right, or to participate, because you have to have as soon as a child loses their courage, and it can be so easily taken away, and there's a couple of, because if I look at myself as sort of I was growing up, or I looked at my sister as an example growing up, my sister's a very strong female, and she was a strong female by nature of, I guess, needing to be and having to be as well, right? She went through high school. She was the type of girl that you wouldn't mess with her at school. Like she would sort you out, sort of thing, right? And so she had that nature about her. So she had unwavering amounts of courage, but I knew that she was terrified in so many cases as well, because this is the distinction of, to have courage doesn't mean you're not scared. Like knowing that it's scary is a good thing. Like and teaching your child that being scared and being nervous right now is absolutely part of the process and what we should be feeling. Right? Like we should be feeling that and still having the courage to do it anyway. Right? So it really starts with fostering an environment of courage, because telling your daughter that she's smart and she's just beautiful all the time, and I tell Ayla, I say she's beautiful, I say she's smart, but I really double down on, I love how when we did that puzzle, that you kept going, even though you thought you couldn't do it, you kept going through. That was amazing. I don't go, you're the best puzzle maker in the world, because she's not, and it's a lie. And why would I do that, right? So it's fostering those things to create the courage that, hey, you can go through this. You can persist. Don't worry, there's always a way. We will figure it out together. I'm here for you when you need it, right? So that just allows that extra, layer to start with, right? So it starts with having the courage, because once you have the courage to step into it, you create a capability.
What would you
right?
say,
You create
Brett,
the capability.
what would you say to a situation, like you said, you haven't parented a 14-year-old, but, we've got lots of parents whose kids have had their self-esteem, their young ladies have had their self-esteem, their confidence shattered, often at school, and that's when they come to us at Euka, and so, where would you say is a starting point to build that self-esteem again in that kind of situation?
The starting point in most cases, again, and this is very blanket, and I know everyone has individualized sort of situations and so forth as well. But if we think of it through that framework that I was just sort of going through, there is, you first need to reinstill courage and give them the courage as to why they would want to continue down this path, right? And that's a starting spot, right? But again, depending on the severity of how someone's lost their confidence or their desire, it really comes back to anchoring yourself with a larger purpose, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, so true.
let's say, for
Yeah.
example, and I'll give you an example, just in, like, if I ever, in any of my, business career, or even fitness, right? So I've lost the confidence. I lost the confidence in my body last year because I neglected it, and I let myself get carried away, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I don't want to do this. I hate the gym. I don't like working out. But I had to, nothing was changed. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go and train. I'm going to do F45. I'm going to go do CrossFit. I'm going to go run. Like, I didn't like none of it until I sat down and I realigned with a purpose as to why I should do this. And it took for me literally that, Brett, you don't want to be the father that can't run around with Ayla when she's 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're sitting on the sideline and she's out there having fun. And because that's the parent I want to. So for me, it was re-anchoring the reason as to why I'm doing this.
Yeah,
At the
totally
despite of,
agree.
I know I'm going to have to go through things that I don't like, right? And I know this is a very different example to a 14-year-old, that you were discussing there, but it comes back to this redefining the situation for what it is, and being open and honest to your children, and letting your children know that the world is hard. Like, the world isn't easy, and if you're setting your child up for just this protection bubble that you don't want them to get hurt, because I get it. The last thing I want is for Ayla to be hurt, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to let her know about the world, and the world isn't fair. Like, it's just not fair. There's things that happen every single day that we just can't even reconcile as, why would that even be the thing? But if you can reconcile and you start teaching your children and yourself that this thing happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen because it happened, and if you believe in the ultimate outcome of, a lot of people say, well, it happened for a reason. And on a surface level, that, if you take that deep, that's so true. Like, every single circumstance happened to a person in their life the exact way it was supposed to happen. Now, I know that can ruffle feathers, because that can then open up into, well, why did that person, they shouldn't have got sick, or this shouldn't have happened to that person. I'm not talking about all those fringe end of the spectrum situation. I'm talking about an aggregate and average, that it does happen the way it's supposed to happen, because it's within that. If we can become seek finders of within that, what are we supposed to, like, what are we learning here? What's the lesson that we gain from this? Right? And then you can start to reframe the current situation where, and again, another example is, I had curly hair. So I got ringlety hair, right? You can't see it in the video, so no point going to YouTube. I've cut it off. But I've got literal ringlet hair, and I've had curly hair my entire life. I was the only boy in my school that had curly hair. And for the junior sort of secondary years of my life, I was like, oh my God, all my mates had all these different haircuts. I still tried to mimic them. I'm there with an undercut with curly hair, and I just hated my hair. And I had the confidence I had around my hair was just, I felt inferior. right? All it took was for one girl to tell me that, oh my God, I love your hair. It's so different than everyone else. I was like, oh yeah, I am different. And I've known I was different my entire life. But it was this moment where I was just like, you know what? I much prefer to be different, because being different is more unique. And why do I want to be like everyone else anyway, right? So I had to reframe that element, where I then started to embrace curly hair. And then I had curly hair my entire teenage up through to my sort of mid-20s. I loved it. I embraced it. And it just so happened that it was more of a unique thing, that more people were pointing it out. And it was, oh man, I love your hair. I love your hair. So something that I had carried for years that I thought was just absolutely terrible ended up being amazing for years, right? So that's the parallel, pro and con effect of some things. But is that sort of setting you in the right
does.
path?
It does.
Does that make sense?
There's a couple of things I've taken from that. And I think one of those first things is when a girl joins Euka and they've come out of a situation that has shattered their confidence or their self-esteem, that's a great place to start with things like validating difference, is what you're talking about there. Validating whatever it is that's caused the problem for her, but also recognizing the bravery that she then can embrace as she's taking this new direction with her own learning. So we've seen so many young girls that have had a really difficult time at school, and they've joined homeschooling with Euka, or future learning, let's call it, with Euka, and to see them flourish, because all of a sudden they develop confidence in themselves, because they can do things that they felt like they couldn't, because they couldn't ask a question, or because somebody was always making fun of them when they answered a question. And all of a sudden, this confidence starts to develop. Every time they're able to achieve something, they're able to go, and the other thing I really loved what you were saying when you said being able to have a purpose or a goal. When you're a young girl, often your goal is getting through this week, or, they're very short term. And as they get a bit older, helping them to look ahead and find some role models that are actually doing some things that they can be really proud of and look at and go, this is possible. Because once they've come out of that system and they're in Euka, there is no barrier to entry into anything. So all of a sudden, they have the opportunity to say, you know what? I might even finish school before my peers. What they say, success is the best revenge. I might finish school first. I might go off and do some crazy thing that you thought wasn't possible before. So having that goal, validating whatever it was that people said was bad because it was different, and recognizing the bravery that they have got now that they're taking a different journey with their learning, I think they're probably good ways to start.
And just to double tap on what you're saying, because I'll finish the confidence equation. It's literally, you have the courage to step forward into something, and then that creates a capability. That shows you that, hey, I now have evidence that if I do this, then I get Y, right? I now know that if I sit down for an hour and learn, or if I know now that it actually doesn't matter if my hair's a little bit frizzy, or if I got a stain on my shirt, or whatever it ends up being, because we think we generally try to forecast what we believe the reaction will be of something, right? And here's a perfect example. It's like, if you've ever had any conflict with anyone or a friend or family member, and you're like, it ended bad, and you message each other, you're like, well, I think we should talk about it. And then that lead up to that conversation, you're having the conversation 89 different ways of all the potential outcomes. It's making you feel sick. It's because you're preempting something that may or may not happen, right? And then you get on the phone call, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry too. And you're like, oh God, I feel so much better now. But it's like, you could have chosen to feel that way at the start prior to letting it hijack you that entire time, right? So, but if we go back to that capability, because I've had enough of those, I've had enough, let's call it awkward conversations or tough conversations in my lifetime, right? That it's created the capability of me that I've got a pretty good degree of accuracy of what to expect on the back end of that, which just gives me more confidence to do it more. And the more confidence I get, the more courage I have, the more steps I take so I can move forward faster and faster. So the hardest part is taking that first step. If you look at how they remove fears from people, right? So like the fear of height, like so let's say you got a fear of heights. You don't go bungee jumping and just jump off you don't put them on the bungee, go, all right, ready, and push them off and go, oh, well, you've done it, you should be fine. That's not how you remove the fear of heights, right? You have to progressionally go through and go, okay, I'm going to have the courage here. Let's say we're going abseiling. You don't just get your harness on and go, okay, walk to the edge and then just go over the end. We've got you covered. You'll be fine. You're on a harness. It's like the person has to mentally be able to agree to take that next step. Not me trying to teach them across the edge of the cliff. I have to mentally get people to do it. So when we've done firewalks before, right, I could tell you that you're not going to get burnt. All you got to do is just walk across. But you've got to get yourself into a state of mind where you believe that to be true. That's where it all starts, right? So if you're on the cliff of doing abseiling, it's all right. So firstly, you got to identify what it is that you're trying to move through and move towards and get over. So look, I do genuinely want to remove my fear of heights. If you don't, then no matter what exercise you do, you're not going to be able to move through. You have to genuinely want to be able to proceed through. Like you genuinely want to have to do it. Or else you'll find a way to sabotage it in any way, shape or form. Right? So it's like, okay, let's just get to the edge of the cliff and stand there for a minute. You don't need to go off. We're not even at that yet. Don't even think about it. You just take it one step at a time. It's like, okay, turn around now. Okay? All you're going to do is now, I'm just going to lean you back a real little bit. I'm just going to hold you here. Is that all right? How do you feel? And you just coerce them through, and then all of a sudden they've experienced it through and they have the capability of knowing that they can go through it versus having a, turmoil of get off the cliff, and it's just created and doubled down on their hatred or their fear for heights, right? So it's like anything. There's processes, and if there's something that's so deep seated or there's a lot of trauma behind it, I would highly recommend going to talk to a professional about it. And a professional should be able to help guide the person or guide your beautiful daughter through the potential trauma that may be sitting there. Because if we don't remove any of that trauma, we're just going to, stack on top of it, and hopefully one day it doesn't fall apart, So it's very, very important that if we're looking to build confidence and self-esteem in our young females, then it's got to start at the very early age. Now, you might go, well, I've got a 16-year-old daughter. You can still start now, right? You can still start now. There's no time like the present to go on a journey of understanding and it all comes back to, again, as a parent, if you're truly wanting to help your child, and I've learned this I have a deep desire of wanting to help everyone, but I've realized in life you actually can't do that either. You can't help everyone. You have to be able to create an environment where that person wants to help themselves, and then you can and I would say must be there to be able to help go through that. But you're not going to be able to help a child gain confidence if you don't have any, because most likely they're a byproduct potentially of how you have been showing up in the world, right? How you're perceived in the world. And that's generally one of the best proxies. It comes as a pro and a con, because also if you yell in your family or you do something, that again you write it off as just it was just a little thing. Next minute your child's walking around or they're growing up yelling at people everywhere, and you're like, what? You get a phone call from your friends going, hey, little Brett's been yelling at everyone. It's like, oh, little Brett doesn't know he's picked it up off his mum or dad. Do you know what I mean? So we are the agar plate for our children, and it's got to start with us. And if you want to increase confidence in your child, or you want to have your child to have more courage to do certain things, then you need to have courage, and you need to support that, and that needs to be an environment. So here's a perfect example. Literally 45 minutes before this episode of podcast, Ayla comes into the room and into my office here. She's hobbling outside into my office. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And she's got a prickle in her foot. And she doesn't want her mum to touch it. She's like, ah. And it's really, really sore. I think it might be really sore. So we had like almost half an hour of okay, we've got to work through this, because there was no way she was wanting us to touch it, and I had to sort of step her through, make her feel, calm, and make her understand why we're doing it and the reason why we need to do this. Because if we don't do this, like, if you don't do that, your foot's going to fall off. Like, that's how you scare your child. And next time your child gets a splinter, they're walking around thinking their foot's going to fall off. Like, all of those things, like, it really matters how you prime your child's mind and what you say to them, right? Even if you think it's a joke, I've already picked up already with Ayla. It's like some, because I'm a joker. I like to joke about lots of stuff. And sometimes I might say a candid joke, and then an hour later I hear her ad-libbing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not correct. So really setting the foundation. And whilst Ayla was upset as we were removing said prickle, because we've spent a lot of time before where she's banged herself, or, we had to go to hospital once for a specific reason, nothing major. But she walks around now sometimes, like she even said, she actually calls it the dentist. I don't know why she calls the hospital the dentist. It's hilarious. She goes, I need to go to the dentist. I said, no, darling, you've got a prickle in your foot. Daddy will be able to help. Daddy can help you. It was hilarious. But we had to create an environment where it wasn't traumatic for her. Now, I could have tied her down and just held her leg and got this prickle out and go, oh, you'll be better off for it. But it's that short-term gain for us that we think can lead to long-term problems potentially. Now, I'm not saying this one would, or every time you do something like that it would, but one of those 830 things that you do across the span of our, helping our child, it could be one of those things that we set up the wrong environment for. So, two parts. One is this last part is the integration of when you're growing and developing a child from the early age. That's obviously ideal if you can. But then there is the intersection of when something may happen or occur in their life that we need to then deploy a different said strategy. And with anything, if someone doesn't feel like it can be solved, or they don't want to solve it, we just need to realign the way in which we're thinking about it and what we're actually thinking about for the end outcome. Because there's always a way to paint the end picture that whatever happened right now is supposed to be the way it is, because now here's what it's allowed us to do.
Yeah, so true. There's a couple of things you said there that I really would love to talk to. When you're talking about the way I love how you said, I'm parenting 80% now and 20% in the future. And I've got to say, when I was attracted to homeschooling when my children were small, because of the teenagers I met who had been homeschooled. And I'll tell you what was different about them. They hadn't been in a situation where they had been battered. Their self-esteem hadn't been battered. They were quite confident, easy to speak to, and quite driven in what they want to do. And it was so outstanding to me meeting these particular young people, and certainly two young girls that I can remember, thinking, my goodness, I want that for my daughter. And that's because parents were doing what you're talking about there, where they're giving those girls opportunities to become confident, and that their voice matters, and that they're more thoughtful, and they're not trying as they're growing up. Unfortunately, certainly in my schooling experience, you were always so desperately seeking approval from peers that your own voice and your own confidence was often, for me, it was definitely pushed down in that quest for approval from teachers or from peers. So certainly, the way you're talking about fathering and parenting develops kids like the ones that I saw that attracted me to homeschooling in the first place. And now I have got that experience with the young people that I'm homeschooling now. But the other thing I was going to say was something that you said about when you said, I now know. And it really brought home to me the opportunity, and I've actually seen this happen, work with a couple of young people where they had a poster up in their room, and this is for kids that are coming out of the school system or out of a situation and into homeschooling for the first time. It's new, and their confidence, their self-esteem has been shattered. To have a piece of paper up on the wall or a poster up on the wall that they can add to as they are building confidence. I now know that what, Kate says isn't everything, or I now know that I'm good at this. And as they're starting to become more confident in their homeschooling, that this poster can start to grow and they can start to have something they can look up at and go, I now know. Because we've all had those moments as adults where we've gone, what? I didn't realize that wasn't a boundary before. And now I've opened the door and I'm an adult and I can see it. But helping them to be able to have that in front of them is really good. And the other thing that you said that I really liked is when you were talking about if you're going to help someone with a fear of heights and you wouldn't just, toss them over the ledge with the rope. It's the same when they start schooling and start this journey with Euka. Don't expect that, and I am thinking more about the teenagers, the ones that were 13 or 14 and they've come out of school and they've got a lot going on emotionally and often a fear of even their own abilities in school. So instead of just saying, well, here's your program, off you go, taking the time to just set smaller goals and say, let's do one lesson together and let's call it quits for the day, or let's, do a little bit of this work and so gradually increasing that so that they develop their confidence without sort of throwing them in the deep end and thinking, oh, they're still not okay, So those are probably important things.
Yeah. Another really important area to touch on is you're a proxy of your environment, right? Which it is hard when you're at school. Like there's absolutely zero denying that. I obviously didn't go to school during a social media world, so I don't know what that is like, but I've seen it, and obviously many, many friends, children, etc., have gone through that, and I've spent a lot of time sort of in those areas studying it, and it's hard. Like if you are thrust into an environment where you got 30 kids, and then at lunchtime you're probably proxy to at least a couple of hundred, or you're seeing so many different things, and there's a new craze going on, and it's like, oh, they've got the Crocs or they've got this, and it's important to sit down and have a conversation with your child about the world, especially as they're teenagers. It's like not all families and not all people are created equal, right? We all have blood and we all have a heart and we breathe oxygen, right? But there's certain circumstances in families and situations that are very different, and it's important for your child to know that no matter what side of the coin they may or may not be on. So as a kid, I didn't understand, I at times would be like, why can't I have this? Why can't I have a new pair of shoes? Or why can't I get a new school bag like that? Or why do I have to get the cheap one here? And I just thought it was unfair, right? Which is so not true in reflection. And if anything, my mum and my stepdad, they did an amazing job raising us as well. But I compared without the knowledge of what it was. Like my parents didn't sit down with me, and not saying that they had to either, but again, these are just things in reflection that I look at. I'm like, I can understand why one of my mates lived in a 3-story house and they had, 2 cars, and he always had the new video games and this and that. Because now I know the job that his father had and his mother worked, and their average income would have been X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, well, I can understand that, but it's important to let your child know that the reality of what they are living within, like the boundaries and the means in which they're living within, and that, if you do come from wealth, or you do come from an area where money isn't necessarily a struggle point for you, is you need to educate your children on that this is a Yes, a luxury of sorts, because many kids' families don't have the money to do this, or they don't have the opportunity to go on holiday here this many times. And it's really important, because imagine if you were in their shoes, how would you feel, right? And this is having these open, meaningful conversations with your teenagers is, and again, it's like, are they going to listen? They might not listen to you the first time, second time, fifth time, sixth time, especially if you're trying to embed this into their nature now, and you're like, you know what, I've got a rogue teenager and I can't rein them in. It's like, it's going to take sets and reps. It's going to take absolute discipline from you as a parent, and that's the only way that it can happen. You're not going to send them off to boot camp and they'll come back all proper and prim and proper, because then they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe my parents did this to me. Until they're 30 and they'll go, oh my God, I can't believe my parents did that for me. It's the best thing they ever did to me now I can look back at. But again, it's one of those things. Sitting down and just setting the scene of the actual reality of the world in which we live in, the life in which they are currently living in, the reality that it doesn't have to be this way forever, because there's opportunities galore in this world that we have in front of us. And if you would like to go and own a Lamborghini, son, when you're older, or you would like to go and buy 3 horses, when you can do that. Right now, our family, we can't afford that. But again, it comes back to setting the expectations first, because when you ground your child, or you ground any human in an understanding, right, perspective really matters, right? Perspective really matters. And they might understand why someone teased them or said this thing to them, right? Because most people don't tease or bully just because they want to be a bully. They're doing it for a number of different reasons, generally social acceptance, to try and fit in with the crowd of who their environment consists of, right? So not that everything needs to be explained, but it really can be in most cases. And if it gets to a point where it's just tongue-tied, the reality is it absolutely happened that way because it was supposed to, and it did. That's all we can deal with. We can only now focus on how would we like it to happen in the future. Or if it did happen again in the future, how would you prefer to think about it? How would you prefer to feel about it? Right? Same thing when we talk about communication, conflict resolution. This all sort of ties in under that, right? It's the ability to not take what someone says at face value all the time. Like the amount of girls even at an older age, where you're hearing them talk and you're like, they say something about their best friend, and then next week you see them together again. I was like, I thought you said, it was just a passing thing. Like, and I think sometimes the closer you get with someone and you get hurt, and this is just a natural sequence in all humans, definitely in partnerships, this is why partners can really trigger their partner very easily, because you know what those touch points are. You know that one thing to say that can get that person, going crazy, because it's not because they want to say that because they think it's necessarily true. They say it because they know they're going to get a reaction from you, right? And when you build that self-esteem inside your daughter as she's growing up, that people's opinions do matter, but they don't count, right? You don't want to also have the attitude, I don't give a shit what anyone says about me, because that's not true, because we do care what some people say about you. But you've got to remember who it is that is saying that, and maybe there's some truth within it as well. And maybe, yes, your feelings do get hurt, but maybe you generally get hurt feelings because there's an element of truth somewhere within it, or it's so far off the spectrum that it's an absolute absurd lie. But generally it's because there's a little bit of truth in it that someone's taken, they've just expanded and created an entire story around it. And that's the thing. And then over time you forget what the thing was, but you're left with the feeling that you haven't been able to express or to be able to discuss and talk about. And that's another, and I'll end on this point, is it's another element that as parents is we need to be there for our children, and we need to be able to foster an environment where they can be open and share I'm going to do my absolute best to cultivate an environment where Ayla can come and tell me anything, absolutely anything, and I won't judge her for it immediately. I won't overreact, and I say immediately because it's not necessarily judging, but there'll be some things that, like this morning, this is crazy. She's 3 years old, and I was like, "What's that?" And I looked under her dresser, and there was a piece of glass. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I pulled out from behind the dresser, and it was a photo frame that we'd had on the wall with a picture in it. And she goes, "I broke that, Daddy." Like, she told me she broke it, and because whenever she does anything, we create that environment where she'll come and tell us. Like, she drew on the carpet the other day. She goes, "Oh, look what," I'm like, "Oh, darling, you know why don't we draw on the carpet?" She goes, "Because it's hard to clean." Like, she knows all the consequence of said thing, right? But again, certainly don't have it perfect here, but it's one of those things that if you can cultivate that environment for your child and be there as a first to be able to listen, right? And if you didn't listen to our previous podcast around conflict resolution and communication, definitely go check it out, because empathy is such a powerful superpower for you as a parent to have, and it's the ability to be able to regulate your own, understand your own, recognizing your own emotions, recognizing the other person's emotions, and then knowing how to handle that. That's so powerful. Because if you start creating an environment where your child comes up and tells you something and you're like, "What the bloody blah, 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 blah," highly unlikely they're going to want to come and tell you something as well. And they'll just go, I don't want to face that feeling that I felt when you yelled at me, because I felt X, Y, Z, X, X. You're just reacting to it. You don't want your child to hate you, but that's what you're basically saying without saying it. Do you know what I mean? So very, very important that we take a self-reflection upon ourselves, and we are the starting block of building, confidence and resilience and strength and courage into our daughters.
Yeah, and definitely, valuing their viewpoint and their voice doesn't mean you actually agree with what they're saying. So I know with a teenager in the house right now, she'll have an opinion on something that's different to mine. And it's because I've got a lot of years on her. And I have to be very careful there are some things I go, "Oh, right, oh, okay," and not make a judgment on it, even though I would like to go, "Well, actually, this isn't," then I go, that's one where I'm just going to leave that one, because she's going to grow into an understanding on that. So it's picking the things that you actually need to go, "Well, we need to make some adjustments here," or share a different alternative viewpoint on something. But valuing the voice of your daughter is a massive one. And if you've got that from growing up from small, that's great. If you find all of a sudden this is just, it's happened upon you and you haven't got those communication skills in place, it's like you said, it's not too late. It's about picking the times and making sure that you're valuing what they're sharing. But I know, yeah. I was just going to say, when it comes to when it comes to leaping into doing something new, like they are with their education or their homeschooling, you have got that extra time to be able to nurture things that they have got talents for, and being able to draw on that gives you something that you can share about who I am in the world, because it's such a confusing time for young girls, in those teenage years. Who am I, and why have I got value? It's a really big question that some people never grow out of that, and so one of the things I love about homeschooling is the time to be able to develop those talents or passions that they've got, to actually start to answer that question, who am I? What am I good at? Why have I got value? It's a real privilege, as what we do in Euka is a privilege to be able to walk alongside parents as they're giving their daughters the opportunity to discover those talents and move ahead in them and give them extra opportunities outside of what they would have normally been able to have.
Another just addition to the creating confidence, courage, capability, etc., and then through to more confidence is to get the ball rolling. Start with the easy wins. Start with the things that you know that they're very capable of, and just all you're doing there is you're reiterating to them that, oh yeah, I can do it, right? So don't start with the biggest audacious thing that they're trying to generate confidence or courage over, right? It's just start with the small things, and you'll start to build up a list a mile long that you're like, now your proof outweighs their belief of, no, I can't do it. But something that you said there that I'll double tap on was when you're talking with your daughter and she has a different viewpoint on it. Adopt the seek first and mentality as well, of really going, you know what, I'm curious. Like, I fundamentally think that you're wrong. Now, you don't need to say that, but it's like, so I want to explore why she thinks that. Like, what are the reasons that she's coming up with that understanding? So I do that quite often with Emily, right? And I mean, I'm probably not an easy partner, to be fair, but I think I'm pretty easy. But she'll say something, and I just can't take. I struggle to take a lot at face value, you know, especially when I've got enough proof in the past to go, okay, what's this? So she might say something, I'm like, interesting. Where'd you get that from? Oh, a lot of people have been, who actually, like, who said it? Like, what source? Like, where specific? And then you find out that it come from, it was something that was on a TikTok video, or I read it on a website, and I'll be like, oh, what website was that? And then what you're doing is you're teaching someone as well that not everything that you see, hear, or feel is true, right? Something could have triggered it off. And this is the world we live in, though, obviously, with media and headlines, and no one reads the actual articles. They just see a headline and they're on to the next thing, and they'll build that up as their corpus of truth, which, again, another conversation within itself. But become super curious about why your child thinks that, or why they hold that belief, right? And then even ask yourself, and I love this concept called steel manning, where it's put the argument as if you were your child and you were arguing yourself. Like, what argument would you have to provide for you to be wrong, Ellen, in your case, and her to be right in her case? It's such a fun thing to do. Not all the time, of course, because, we've got life to live, but for certain things that matter and are meaningful, if you're ever having a conversation and you're like, your child just totally disagrees with you, try and find the median as to why are you disagreeing. Because generally you're basing your thesis, you're basing your argument off a totally different starting point from what she would be. And when you understand that you get back on the same sheet of music and you're singing from the same song, you can see where you lost traction or the communication got fractured because she's seeing blue, you're seeing red, and you're just coming to it from a totally different avenue. So lots to unpack there, and lots to figure out for us as parents as we move forward. It's a never evolving landscape. And what I'll say, just to wrap this episode up, is just know that if you're listening to this and you're taking any pieces from it and you're implementing it, you're already a mile ahead of so many other parents out there. Becoming awoken to the opportunity that there are things that we can do and you can do and consistently do to improve, you're not only your own life, but your children's lives as well, and your future generations' lives. It all starts with us. And Ellen, any final words that you'd like to impart?
I'm an optimistic person, and that's because I've seen so many situations turn around for young girls that were in a very difficult place. And so to see young girls that are going out and getting careers that they're after, or they're off to university and things like that, it has really hit home to me that, you're in this you have a fantastic opportunity with your daughters now, whatever age they are, and, to be able to say you're building something in them that's going to be a great platform for them to go on and develop into who they're going to be in the future. So, yeah, it's an exciting journey. It's a tricky one. And one thing I loved that you said, Brett, where you said, if your daughter has a certain if there's a courage situation, a confidence situation, what can you do in your own life as a parent to say, oh, is there something that I'm giving off that, or somewhere I can develop more courage and show them that you can build yourself up. It's never too late to be improving your own self-esteem and confidence, because it's easy for, as a mom, as a woman, to be, without even realizing, saying something like, oh, I look like this in this outfit, or that kind of thing, really focusing on your own self-esteem, your own confidence and courage, and start being active about building those things up in yourself. And then your daughter's going to see that in you as well. So I liked that you mentioned that before also. That's it from me.
Amazing. And we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it. Head over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, wherever we are streaming this show. Give us a thumbs up, 5-star review. All of those things are amazing. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.